people are sick and tired of what's been going on, the crime that's been going on there. You're going to pay $2 million for a home. You can't send your kids to the school. You can't wear a watch out without worried about getting carjacked. Somebody I know was followed home 3 months ago in front of his family, was shot in his face. It became almost like a third world country in some of these places in terms of the crime. Now, the hope is, and when we had this last election in California, we've seen a much larger movement politically than we've ever seen in the last, I think it was 20 or 30 years.
I think we talk a lot about this with my team. I try to convince everybody to buy a home.
Yeah.
And, one of the things that I feel like, especially in this area, Middle Tennessee, it's growing because it's growing at a very rapid pace. And so, I mean, would it be, but a lot of people feel like the interest rates are still a little too high.
Yeah.
I don't know if those are going to fluctuate or not. I want to ask you, but
sure.
But just from what I've seen in the 7 years that I've been here, prices they've never leveled off. Mm-hmm. They just keep going up. And so I feel like it would be better to buy right now, no matter what the interest rate is, because the equity is going up so fast. I mean, am I on the money with that? Or
yeah, I mean, I think it's a great point. And I'm one, like you said, I moved from Southern California here 2 years ago. I looked at the price increase of the previous 2 years, kind of like when you came out here, and I was like, damn, I really missed the boat. And I figured, look, the money I'm going to save on taxes, all these things, I may be buying at the top, but at the end of the day, 2, 3, 4 years, it'll all even out. Well, I think the house is up another 10 to 15%. So had I have not done it, I would have missed out. And when you look at, I think, real estate in general, everyone wants to say real estate. Well, up until 2008, real estate is how it should be, was independent markets. 2008, we saw this crash. Everything went down at the same time. There was never a nationwide housing decline in the history of the United States up until 08, 09. You had certain markets that went down when some went up. So I think it's going to be a little bit area specific. You talk about Tennessee, you talk about North Carolina, you talk about Texas, you talk about Florida. This is the area where all the growth is coming. Jobs are being created. It doesn't really surprise me that if you look at the administration, if you look at these are red states that support business, have zero to low taxes, there's incentive for small businesses. If you are looking to buy a home in one of those areas, which is where I think you should be buying, I think it goes up over the next 2, 3, 5, 10 years. And that's going to continue to happen because when you look at areas like California, I was just out in Newport Beach, literally what we bought our home here for, which is almost $7,000. You've been to our house. It's a nice house, beautiful home. You can get a 3,000 square foot lot, not a house, tear down for about the same price. So it's absolutely, when you look at the value you get in somewhere like Tennessee, it's huge. And by the way, no state income taxes. So I think the advice that you're giving to people, if you're buying in some of those areas that I mentioned, I think it's spot on. Now, California, places like Seattle, places like New York, I think those areas are going to continue to come down. You've seen some of those prices come down, unless you're getting into the upstate New York and things like that. So I wouldn't be buying there, but all those areas that I mentioned, I think you're right on. And the point, maybe we'll talk a little bit about interest rates, but 7% interest rates, that's kind of historic norm. We're looking at these 10, 15 years where we had abnormally low interest rates, and people have kind of gravitated towards that and say, oh, I'm going to stay on the sidelines. I don't think that's the thing to do. 80s, you had 20, 23% interest rates. And, the pros and cons of a booming economy, if the economy does do well, which I believe it's going to be doing under this incoming administration, I don't think interest rates are going to be coming down anytime soon. So I wouldn't be on the sidelines.
You don't think they're going to come down?
I don't think so. No.
A lot of people are waiting for that.
Yeah, they're going to be waiting a long time, I think.
So, I mean, the country it is what it is. The country's been very divided. It has been for some time now. And we are seeing this massive influx of people from California moving into red states, especially the tax-free states. But so are prices in California, are they dropping? Because what I've heard from the rumor mill is they're actually staying the same, if not going up.
Yeah, I mean, I think when you look at them relative to other states, they're not doing as nearly as well. When you look at some of the higher priced homes, and the thing is about California, I mean, an average home, let's look at Orange County, for example. An average home is going to be somewhere around 1.8 to $2 million. Nothing super exceptional. So when you look at it from that standpoint, they're kind of hanging in there. You're not seeing the increases like you're seeing in North Carolina or Texas or Florida. However, the thing that I would say California has going for it is there's nowhere else to build in these areas. There's no open land like you have in Texas and Tennessee. So prices are going to somewhat stabilize. However, the catalyst for them to go up, I don't think is going to happen. And when you look at, some of the big producing areas in California that you've seen over the last 5 to 6 years, like Newport Beach area, like Huntington Beach. And these are they actually call these the Red Republic. These are the areas within Southern California that have different politics, and people who couldn't have necessarily left California to come to Tennessee, move from Los Angeles into some of these counties over there. Those areas are going to continue to, I think, hold their value, but the catalyst for them to go up, I don't think is really going to be there, Shawn.
Okay. And in places like Washington, I mean, those are coming down.
Those are coming down as well for some of the same reasons we're seeing in areas like California. Now, the hope is, and when we had this last election in California, we've seen a much larger movement politically than we've ever seen in the last, I think it was 20 or 30 years. And I think, look, Shawn, people are sick and tired of what's been going on, the crime that's been going on there. You're going to pay $2 million for a home. You can't send your kids to the school. You can't wear a watch out without worried about getting carjacked. Somebody I know was followed home 3 months ago in front of his family, was shot in his face. He just passed away 2-3 days ago in an area, Bel Air. Like we've heard of the Fresh Prince of Bel Air. This is outside of Beverly Hills, one of the nicest areas out there. And, it's really because of the politics and what's been going on. Like I've seen since COVID, I lived in Southern California for 20 years. It became almost like a third world country in some of these places in terms of the crime. I mean, absolutely horrible.
Jeez. What about land?
Yeah.
Me and you go back and forth on land all the time.
Yeah.
I know you're right, but I love land.
Yeah.
But what are some of what do you expect land to do in the upcoming year?
Yeah, well, look, I think that I like land also. The challenge with land is if you're someone who, two things. Number one, I would say the tough part about land is you don't get an immediate income from land. So if you buy raw land, you can't rent it out to somebody like you could apartment or even a single family house or a commercial building. There's no tax incentive, as you know, unfortunately, when you go to buy land, because the tax incentives come from a depreciating asset, which is a building on top of the land. So when you buy land, what you're doing is buying that land for future appreciation, which isn't a bad thing, but you have to have the money to be able to wait for that. So for example, if you're looking to buy, we were just talking about Tennessee's booming right now. And so all the development is starting to go further south because the areas north are starting to get towards Nashville are starting to get more expensive. So the builders, everybody's starting to move further south. That path of progress, if you want to get ahead of that, because developers are going to be buying that land, people are going to be going out there, investors, Vanguard, BlackRock are going to be buying, KKR. I think buying that with the idea, if you can wait 7 to 10 years, it's probably going to be a good investment. But just know during a certain period of time, there's not going to be any income coming from that. And you don't want to buy any investment, whether it's land or stocks or a private business, with the idea that I might have to pull money out in a year or 2 years, because that could become a time where the market isn't doing too well and you don't want to have to sell at a loss. So if you've got the money, you don't need the tax incentives right away, and you can wait for that progress to happen, I think land's a decent investment.
No matter where you're watching Shawn Ryan Show from, if you get anything out of this, please like, comment, subscribe, and most importantly, share this everywhere you possibly can. And if you're feeling extra generous, please leave us a review on Apple and Spotify podcasts.